there's a radio, not radio, but there's a telephone company called Verizon. And Verizon, amen, has a slogan, "Can you hear me now?" In Fairfax, Virginia, Verizon has flooded mailboxes, gone door to door, even handed out free ice cream as it seeks to sell its Fios fiber optic television, telephone, and high-speed internet service. They're doing all they can to push their product, to advertise, to market it. Can you believe that? They've gone door to door, they've sent out mailers, and they gave out free ice cream in order to sell their product. It just makes me wonder, what should we be doing as Christians to sell the greatest product or the greatest person of all time? I'm about done. Preacher in a large church in St. Louis, Missouri, went to see an advertising executive. Deeks, I told you about that this morning. He said his church had marketing dollars to spend and wondered which medium, amen, would be most cost effective for the church. Would it be television? Would it be radio? Would it be newspaper? To get the message of Christ out to the world, that the church has the best message and the greatest man. And the executive paused and then said, "I recommend this, that you construct a single billboard, just one." The answer was surprising to the preacher. He's like, we got a lot of dollars, and you saying just build one billboard? He said, yeah, just one billboard. And he thought it was a little comical, but he listened. And so the executive said, build that one billboard, and where you should put it is on your church property. And what you should do is build it and turn it inward to the parking lot of your church. And the preacher was still just amazed. He says, the reason I'm telling you is you don't need advertising. In your church members, you have what amounts to the largest sales force in town. Use the billboard to encourage your people, the Christians in your church, to do what God has called them to do. Go and make disciples. And as Robert Spears said, any man who has a religion is bound to do one of two things with it: change it or spread it. And if it isn't true, he must give it up. If it's true, he must give it away. More than ever before, we need to witness for Christ. We need to give away our faith to everyone we meet. We need to advertise. We need to talk. We need to invite. We need to encourage. And in order to lead people to Christ and the church, we need to be sold out ourselves. Sold out to Christ. And if we're sold out, we'll be selling. Amen. I'm done when I tell you this. Those who had been scattered preached the word wherever they went. In conclusion, when Dr. W.A. Criswell, pastor of the largest Southern Baptist church in the world at one time, was preaching at North Shore Baptist Church in Chicago, he was entertained at the home of, at that time, Deacon James L. Kraft, who was the superintendent of the Sunday school and founder of Kraft Foods. Kraft said that as a young man, he had one desire. He said, I want to be the most famous manufacturer and salesman of cheese in the entire world. So what did he do? He planned on becoming rich and famous by making and selling cheese, and began as a young man with a little buggy pulled by a pony by the name of Patty, P-A-D-D-Y. After making his cheese, the youth would load his wagon, and he and Patty would drive down the streets of Chicago to sell his cheese. And as months passed, young Kraft began to despair because he was doing all the work. He was doing everything right, but he wasn't making any money in spite of working long hours, and hard work all day. One day, he and his pony Patty, pulled to a stop, and he began to talk to him. He said, Patty, there's something wrong. We're not doing it right. I'm afraid we have turned it around. Our priorities are not where they ought to be. Maybe, Patty, we ought to serve God and place him first in our lives. Kraft then drove home, made a covenant that for the rest of his life he would serve God and then work as God directed him. Many years after this, Dr. Criswell heard James Kraft say, I would rather be a layman in the North Shore Baptist Church than to head the greatest corporation in America. My first job is serving Jesus Christ. And brothers and sisters, you and I, we have an opportunity laid before us here this evening, tonight, last night of 2023, and we can make a commitment to Christ. We can make a decision for him. Now, I don't take for granted that everyone is ever all saved in any assembly. For the mere fact that I was in Cleveland and I was asked to go back to Mississippi to preach a revival. As I preached that revival, it was on a Wednesday night, I believe. Don't know, I can't remember the sermon, but it was so convicting. People that I had been preaching to for 8 years got up and rejoined the church. And their testimony was this: I may not have known what I was doing the first time, but Pastor, this sermon has made me realize I really need to make certain that I let God and everybody here know which side I'm standing on.